So how do we start?
How do we start? We haven't figured it out yet.
We're still working on the intro. But maybe that is the intro, because this is Shouting Over Static, the video game show and tell project, starring myself, Mark. Tom is here.
Hello.
Hello, Tom.
Hi.
Jack is here.
Yo, what's going on?
And special guest, superstar, Kyaw. Hello, Kyaw.
Hello. Thanks for that intro.
That's how we start round here. It's getting good. It's way better than a couple of weeks ago when I completely forgot what the show was called, or even how intros work. So the concept of this show, as discussed in previous episodes, is that each week we take it in turns to bring a game to the virtual table, and then we discuss that game, and we see where the conversation takes us. A bit like a show and tell, really. Hence the name. It's Kyaw's turn this week, as our special guest, and also as the pinch hitter for Dylan. It's Kyaw's turn to come in and bring a game to the table and see where the conversation goes. So, Kyaw,
Yeah.
we're waiting with bated breath. What do you have for us?
So I'm bringing Witcher 3, but I guess we can talk about other games in the series.
Wicked. I love it.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Sick.
We've all played The Witcher 3, haven't we?
I've played it for about 45 minutes.
Perfect.
Excellent. That's all you need.
Why only 45 minutes? Was it just you didn't get into it, or you just didn't have time, or you were playing other stuff?
One word, Jack. Destiny.
Yeah, fair.
Is this a stealth?
Oh no, we can't have another episode where we just talk about Destiny.
No, that's it. That's my Destiny mention over now.
So okay, so let's all give a brief rundown of our experiences and sort of our history with the Witcher series then, because I felt that's something worth mentioning. So Kyaw, you brought it to the table. What does the Witcher series mean to you?
Right, so it's probably one of my favorite video game series that I've ever played, and I love the books as well. I love the characters. That's why I'm bringing it. And I'm actually playing through Witcher 3 again for a second time because I lost my saves for the first game, and I couldn't play the DLCs properly with my character, you know?
Oh man.
Yeah, like you need to bring your Witcher, your Geralt, with all of your choices into those DLCs
Yeah, exactly.
for sure.
Even though Geralt is its own character, and it's not like you made this character, but it's still, my Geralt.
Yeah, I guess he's not like Commander Shepard, but there's still a level of it being your Geralt, isn't there?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So are you onto those DLCs yet?
No, I'm not actually. I'm still in the, let's say, middle of the game, probably. Of the main game.
Those DLCs are sweet.
Have you played both?
So yeah, I guess actually I should probably. So my background with The Witcher is I have played the 3 games and all the DLC, and think that they're brilliant. I think 2 is probably my favourite, if I'm honest. I think I really, really like The Witcher 2. I think it tells a really good Witcher story without being bloated by some open world stuff that I think The Witcher 3 suffers from at certain points. But I still think The Witcher 3 is fucking incredible. And yeah, much like you, Kyaw, I love all those characters in that world, and all those books are wicked too. All the books they're based on are great. I'm working through the 4th one actually at the moment.
Okay.
Tower of the Swallow. I'm currently about 2/3 of the way through it, and it's sick. Yeah.
Cool. How about Jack?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a massive fan of the games. I think it must have been probably about a year after, like, I got told about it by Mark, and then Dylan started talking about it, and then I was just like, oh, well, you know what, I had like 30 quid lying around. I was like, oh, why not? I'll buy it. And yeah, I mean, I'm a massive fan. Like, I actually genuinely really like the whole series, and of course, the card game that they introduced into it as well. As you all know, I'm a big fan of that, Gwent. So I've been playing some of that. I haven't actually played it in quite some time, but I mean, what they're doing, the fact that they have it as a standalone game as well, and they've got their own like esports series going on as well, which I think is fantastic for something that started off as a bit of a novelty in the game. And they had that quest in the game where it was like find all the cards. I believe, Mark, you've already done that. I
did find all the cards. I caught them all.
The fact that they just have that in there, and it started out as a novelty, and then it got such a great reception, and people were like, well, are you going to make it into an actual game? Because this would be awesome, and they have. So I think that's pretty good. But yeah, like you guys have mentioned, really, the characters in the game are just awesome. I think all of the voice acting in it as well is just simply stunning.
Oh,
So
yes, this is true.
One thing I noticed is if you watch the cutscenes properly, like all the characters in Witcher 3, their eyes are animated really well. Did you notice that?
Yeah, because Geralt has loads of really great like eye rolls and like little sly looks around and stuff. Like, yeah, I don't know about other characters, but Geralt emotes incredibly well.
Yeah, I think like every character in every cutscene they all have their own little subtle eye animations. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Jinx.
So Tom, what
Yeah,
you've already said, I guess your history.
So yeah, I picked it up. I think it was on sale. I got like the complete, Witcher 3. What is it? The Blood and Wine and the first expansion. What was that one called?
Hearts of Stone.
Hearts of Stone. I was thinking Hearthstone, but I was like, no, that's not right.
That's that other card game.
That's like that not Gwent thing. So I picked it up, downloaded it, played it for probably about 45 minutes, and I was just really intimidated by it. Like, I appreciate it, and like from what I played, it seemed like a really cool game, but I suddenly became aware that I downloaded this, 150-hour behemoth of a game that was...
Does size intimidate you?
Yeah, always. Like, I was being told about these lotions and potions and oils and mutations and stuff.
Lotions?
I don't know.
Yeah.
What is it? Poisons?
Soap. There's a great line of soap in The Witcher 3.
And yeah, it's not a bad game by any means. I didn't not enjoy it, but it seems like it's
intimidating.
Yeah, sure. It's like going to watch The Godfather. It's like you don't just say, "Oh, I'll stick that on. I'll just watch that for 3.5 hours." Like you have to think, "Hey, it's 5 now. Do I have anything to do like for the rest of the evening?"
Yeah. I understand.
It's just that kind of thing. And
do I want to play any other video games for possibly the next year?
Yeah. And really, I've got no excuse not to play it because I've been playing Just Cause 3 at the moment, and that's absolute trash. But I still keep playing it for some reason. But yeah, I really should get into it. Maybe I'm saving it for a special occasion. I don't know. Maybe I've heard so many good things about it that I want it to be a special and good experience.
You need that shit to be special, man.
Yeah. It's my first time.
It will whenever you begin to play it, I imagine. Have you played the old games as well? 1, 2?
No, it's the only entry in the series that I've even looked at, so I've not read any of the books or anything either.
1 is hard to go back to.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've tried to get into playing 1 so many times. I must have restarted the campaign on that 3 or 4 times, and it's just every time I do, I just it's a good game. I mean, for what it is and for when it was developed, it's okay. But yeah, it is tough to get into.
Yeah.
It took me 3 or 4 restarts before it clicked, and then I just lost 50 hours into it in about 2 weeks.
I was introduced to the first game, surprisingly. Actually, not surprising at all, by my Polish friend back in high school. He told me it was one of the best games he's played, so I just started playing it, and I got into it straight away as well. It was really good. It was a bit janky, but it was good.
It's so janky. It is the most Euro jank video game I've ever played.
I don't even know what that means.
It's just full of it's full of little bugs, and all the character models look a bit shit, and there's loads of weird boobs.
There's that weird card collecting game where you have sex with...
It's a horny video game, isn't it?
And you collect their cards after you have sex with them. It's awful.
It's like the Pokemon of fucking.
Oh my god.
It got me through the game, basically, right? It's as a teenager.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Man, I need to go and play The Witcher 1.
It will run on fucking anything as well. 'Cause it's like, it's like 2007 that game came out in. It's 10 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Golly.
It's the Game of the Year edition, and is it remastered or whatever edition they call it? They fixed up all
The
bugs.
enhanced edition, isn't it?
That's the enhanced edition. Yeah, they fixed up everything, and it's good. It's not as janky.
Yeah, that's the version I played, and it's I didn't encounter too many bugs.
Yeah.
You want some, right? You want there to be some bugs so you know what you're playing is real.
Yeah, like you gotta feel it, don't you? You have to know.
Like
You want to know it's homemade.
They call that a known shippable. Yeah, I think The Witcher 1 it's got really. I think as much as like when you go and play it now, it really shows that it is. It's like it uses like the old Baldur's Gate engine, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like you can play the entire thing from a top-down perspective, just clicking with the mouse. You don't have to use any keyboard shots. Like you don't have to use keyboard like a proper third-person action game.
Yeah, it's not actually.
You can play the entire
game, is it? It's overdue kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a heavily modified like old D&D game. I think is the engine that it's based on is an engine made for making D&D games.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's definitely hard to go back to. Like as you've rightly pointed out, Jack, it takes a couple of dry runs before you can really get into it.
Yeah. I know. I've wanted to sit down and play the second one, but I don't know if I have to like play the first one to get a gist of how the second one's going to play out. I don't know if there's like any sort of reference back to the first one that I might be missing out on.
There's the second one kind of continues from so basically at the end of the first one you get a cutscene where you're hanging out with the king and an assassin goes to kill the king, but you kill the assassin and then you take the hood off the assassin and it's revealed that the assassin has Witcher eyes.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of the setup for 2, but nothing else really from memory comes across.
I think
okay,
a couple of characters continue on as well, but it's not really.
Yeah, like it's got. Yeah, like Triss is in it and things like that. Like the characters that you are already kind of familiar with from 3 sort of come across, but I think it's not like a direct continuation of the story, really.
Yeah. Same thing with 2 and 3 as well.
Yeah, there's just a cutscene at the end of 2 that sets up 3, and then some characters come across, but it doesn't really. It's like it is a different adventure of Geralt, I suppose, is the way to put it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, I fucking love 2. 2 is my favourite out of all of them. It's absolutely phenomenal video game. One of the few video games I've ever played that does like a branching storyline well and properly.
Oh my god, yeah. You have a completely second middle act in 2 because of the choices you made, basically.
Yeah, like it's a 3-act game. It's got like a prologue and an epilogue, but there's Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, and you make a decision in Act 1 that means that your Act 2 is literally one of 2 completely different, like 15-hour chunks of gameplay.
Oh, really?
Man, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's like completely different. Like I made one particular choice and then I looked up how it goes the other way, and it is like, it's nuts how different it is. Like it's all different characters, all different locations. There's like a tiny bit of crossover depending on like some choices you make in it. You can go back the other way. But like, yeah, I've never played a game that's done it that well. It's crazy.
That's really cool. It's like 2 games in one.
Yeah, basically.
Kind of.
Good value for your money. You can do a
Oh, yeah.
playthrough and enjoy a completely different experience.
Yeah, I know me and Mark and Jack, actually, we've talked before about your grievances, Mark, with The Witcher 3's story. Like, why you think it doesn't match up to The Witcher 2.
Yeah. It's I think it's got it's got a good story and it paints an incredible world. I think as an achievement of an RPG, it is like unmatched. However, I do think you spend far too much of that game looking for doing things that aren't looking for Siri in aid of looking for Siri.
Yeah.
Because the first probably 60% of the story of that game is look for Siri, and then you go and see someone and they go, I'll tell you a bit about her, but you're going to help me out first. And then you go and do another really great adventure that is not connected to the plot in any way, and then they tell you where Siri is and you go somewhere else and do it. It's like all the stuff with the Bloody Baron is awesome, but not actually related to the plot. All the stuff in Novigrad looking for like Dandelion and solving like the mystery of their heist that went wrong, awesome, not related to the main plot in any way.
Mm.
So like you spend a lot of that game doing stuff that doesn't actually drive the plot forward. You're just running errands for people to find out where Ciri went, and like I don't necessarily think it's a bad story. I just think compared to the razor sharp focus of The Witcher 2, where it is like set piece, story moment, important choice, thing after thing after thing, and it just fucking goes. Like, I think I played The Witcher 2 in 2 sittings. It was 33 hours in one weekend, like 2 sittings. Like, I literally played it all day, fell asleep, got up, played the other half of it the entire next day, because you just can't put it down.
That's insane.
Yeah, like, I think The Witcher 2 is incredible, and yeah, like The Witcher 3, because it's this huge open world and it does all these things and it's got this huge wealth of really interesting content in it, it does mean that the story loses some of that focus, which I think is kind of actually a bit of a bummer.
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you think, Kyaw? You have finished it.
What?
So,
What? 3 and 2?
Witcher 3, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, actually. It's the finding Ciri. That's the main goal, I guess, of the game. And it's supposed to be this urgent thing, but the urgency's gone because you're running around doing other things you need to do in order to find Ciri, right? And it just takes an awfully long time, I think, to get to that point.
Does it kind of feel like they shoehorned side quests into being main quests?
It doesn't feel like shoehorning. They all flow quite well, I think, in terms of the world and the other problems that the world's facing in the game. Like, in the game, so there's a huge invasion happening and there's lots of war happening. So everything comes together, but it does feel a bit like running around doing errands in some of the points in the story.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, also as well. It's not. It's all. I also don't mean it as a huge criticism, because the errands that you do, as I said, are really great. Like, all the stuff with the Bloody Baron and the Witches of Crookback Bog is just great.
Yeah.
Like, those quests are some of the most outstandingly well written and most like atmospheric content I might have ever done in an RPG. But at some point it just feels a bit like the plot meanders to its conclusion, because when you actually find Ciri, spoilers, the game about finding Ciri, at some point you do find Ciri, it fucking goes back to that like Witcher 2 style razor sharp focus, and then you just get like 15 hours of incredible quest after incredible quest, and it just fucking goes. There's like loads of crazy stuff with like a mystery elf, and it's awesome. But yeah, also I know a lot of people sort of fell off that game at some point, where you go to Novigrad and it just asks you to like do a bunch of like solve a bunch of mysteries with the local crime syndicates, and none of it really relates into Ciri, and the plot slows right down.
Yeah, Novigrad's probably the slowest bit in the game, and just a bit after that it picks up again. So it's a strange point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I also, like, I didn't help myself either, because I played it with the kind of sort of obsessive compulsion to do everything and get everything and pick up everything and get every quest. And like, before I left an area, like before I left Velen to go to Novigrad, like I pulled up a list of all the quests in Velen and was like, right, have I done all these? Yep, sweet, okay. And like went to every single icon on the map. And yeah, like, there's a reason it took me 170 hours to play that entire game. But
The thing is some of the quests in Valen you can't do because your level's too low, isn't it? What do you do with it?
yeah, like there's some you have to come back to do, don't you? Because it's like, oh wait, no, this is a like level 35 Witcher contract. I can't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still, but also a lot of that side stuff, like those Witcher contracts and things like that, are just so well written, aren't they? Like so much of it's so well put together that yeah, it loses some of that focus. But as a feat of video game writing, it's incredible.
Yeah, one of the most memorable quests, quite a silly one actually. It happens in the beginning area, White Orchard. I think that's where you're at, Tom, right? When you start the game.
Yeah, I've got out of there, but yeah, that's where I spent most of my time.
There's a quest in there where you have to find a pan for this old lady.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, it's.
I've actually heard about this quest from someone else. Someone else has said the standout quest for me was finding a pan.
Yeah, I think it's the classic go-to, something that everyone remembers. But the thing is, as easy as the quest was, you just walk into the house and find it. In this actually burnt down house, I think. But it ties into the whole overarching story because this guy was using the suit from the pan to write secret messages, like as a spy. That was pretty interesting, I thought.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. There's again all this like side content that's incredible. There's a side quest in Blood and Wine which I'm not going to spoil for you, Chaw, because it is incredible. But basically some stuff goes down and you get into a bit of a situation and you meet a brand new character who may have been around for a while but you haven't realised, and it's really great.
I think I know the one.
It's yeah, maybe because Blood and Wine is full of all these weird little references. Because that's another thing as well, I suppose, is worth talking about. We've got to talk about The Witcher. Is The Witcher 3 has these two massive bits of downloadable content, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, that are I think it's like 12 quid and 20 quid for like the two of them or something. And like Blood and Wine is an extra 40 hours of gameplay.
Really?
It's like a whole other extra RPG on they just give you as DLC. It's nuts.
I hear that it's kind of like the size of Witcher 2 in terms of content. Is that true?
Yeah, probably. I would probably believe that. I think. Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment. It's an area of map probably about the same size as Velen. Also,
that's really
it's a
big.
huge bit of map they give you, and it's just got loads and loads of stuff in it. I finished the main game about 100 hours in, and then still my final clock time was 170 hours because Hearts of Stone is about 20 hours, and if you do everything in Blood and Wine, it's about 50 hours. It's nuts.
So, Hearts of Stone is actually a DLC set within the current Witcher 3 world, right?
Yeah, it just goes and uses like that top right chunk of the map where nothing really happens during the main game, and they just set a bunch of quests up there, and it's really good.
Okay.
What's the Shani comes back? Shani from The Witcher 1.
Yeah, I've seen those screenshots.
Yeah, you have. Perp. I know what screenshots you were looking up.
Jesus Christ.
Great. It's awesome bit of content, Hearts of Stone. And then, Blood and Wine, like I said, gives you this huge extra map with a bunch of new characters in it. It brings back a character from the books.
Right, okay.
Who's awesome. Like he turns back up and sort of hangs out, does some shit with you. It's good stuff. Yeah, it's full of nice little references to sort of the history of The Witcher, and it acts as very much
Do
like a
the-
nice swan
Do
song
both
to
of the
it.
DLCs
And, yeah,
actually tie in with like some of the aspects of the actual main story, or are they like different standalone stuff on their own?
nope, completely standalone. In fact, I did all the DLC before doing the very last quest in the game, and there's a bit in Blood and Wine where someone asks you what you've been up to because they haven't seen you in a while, and Geralt straight up spoils the end
Oh,
of
wow.
Witcher 3. He says, "Oh, I went and did this with this person. It was really cool." And I was like, "I haven't done that yet. What the fuck?"
Man, you got
But yeah, like, they
spoilers
are-
from your own video game.
Yeah, man.
That's really funny.
So yeah, they're completely unrelated. They're totally side stories.
So you should definitely play the DLC after you finish the main game.
Yeah, I would recommend that. Like,
I'm-
don't do what I did and try and make it so that the very last thing in The Witcher you do is play the last mission, because yeah, you end up getting it spoilt for you by the DLC.
Wow.
I'm going to be honest, I'm so pedantic that when you describe doing the DLC before doing the like main quest of the base game, it makes me a little bit sick.
But this is it, right? Because
Why
I
would you
wanted
do that ever?
I wanted the last, because I knew after spending 170 hours playing The Witcher 3, I was never going to play it again. So I
Yeah.
wanted the very last thing I did in The Witcher 3 to be the last mission of the main game. I wanted it to be like the big quest you go and do at the end and you save the world. So I was like, okay, I've got up to that point. I've only got that quest left. So now I'm going to go and do all this other content as well. Because I knew for a fact that if I went and did the big climactic finish and then it was like, well, you're done now, I would have lost my motivation. I'd be like, okay, yeah, I am done now. Thank you, Witcher 3, for the time that we've had together. So
You would
I
have taken a bow and walked off stage.
I did the same thing with the Mass Effect games, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, apart from one of them, apart from Mass Effect 3, I didn't play Citadel before the end the first time, because Citadel DLC is like a beautiful swan song to everything that is Mass Effect. Because that's the one where you get all of your friends from all three games together and have a really big party.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then you go and solve crimes. It's great.
Man, all the best parties involve solving crimes.
And Sherlock Holmes is great. Yeah, I suppose that's because that's another one, isn't it? That's like kind of. I think there's a lot of shared DNA between, in a lot of ways, Mass Effect and The Witcher. I think of them both quite similarly in my head. Though obviously
I could
one's
probably
like
see
fantasy and one's sci-fi.
Yeah, I think CD Projekt, the guys who made The Witcher, they draw lots of inspiration from earlier BioWare games, don't they? Like literally.
Yeah,
basing
yeah,
their
100%.
first game's engine on a BioWare engine, like heavy modified
Yeah.
BioWare engine.
Yeah, because I guess BioWare did make all those like original like games, didn't they? That engine came
Yeah,
from.
I think it was Neverwinter Nights. That I actually looked
Yeah,
up.
Neverwinter Nights.
Have you guys seen the documentaries on CD Projekt and Witcher games? It's called No Clip documentary series.
Oh yes, Danny O'Dwyer does those, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no clips really good. Did you see his Doom one that he did?
Yeah, they just talked about like the formation of the company all the way from there to making all the games after that, and BioWare actually gave them, I think, a booth in an E3, like to promote Witcher 1, like because CD Projekt, they didn't really have their own booth when they first made the game. It was quite incredible.
That's such a crazy because CD Projekt Red, who develop the Witcher games, they started off doing like semi-legal Polish translations and distributions of other PC games, didn't they?
Yeah. They basically, the guy, the CEO, the current CEO, he started I think, downloading video games off radio, so you can transmit code apparently using radio, and like
That
they
makes sense,
recorded
right?
it on tape recorders, and they just distributed it because there was no other way of getting games in Poland at the time. It has something to do with communism, apparently.
Oh wow.
Man,
Everything's got something to do with communism, Joe.
Yeah, that's how CD Projekt became a thing.
That's
They-
crazy. And now to think they've made like one of the most celebrated PC video games of all time.
Yeah, it's quite incredible. I think,
they seem like a really wholesome company, don't they?
yeah,
So it's funny you say that
there was some news.
because there are some. Yeah. Do you want to tell the you
No,
know the
you go on.
news? I guess
You're
don't you?
better at this.
There's some stories came out from CD Projekt about their approach to like crunch and like developer rights, and apparently even though CD Projekt are all about like no DRM and we're gonna have good old games
Yeah.
and all this other stuff they do,
Yeah.
they're apparently a pretty serious company to work for. They apparently they work their employees to the fucking
Man, I imagine
bone.
to get something like The Witcher, then you're gonna have to put a lot of effort into that. But I can't imagine. I didn't think that they would like do that and just completely destroy. I wouldn't say destroy, but like demoralize their employees if they're doing that.
Hang on, I'll see if I can get the specifics up somewhere because from memory, the stories coming out of it is their approach to crunch time is real serious.
I mean, I've heard a lot of stories in the past about studios that are, or just sort of like general comments on being a developer is like, yeah, it's quite fun, but crunch time, oh my god. Like those last few months where you're, before the game goes gold and it's ready to go, like it can
Where
be
you're like
really...
sleeping in the office under your desk and eating
Yeah.
pizza and working 14
Yeah,
hours
exactly.
days.
Like, a few remaining days before you submit your thesis or something like that.
Yeah. What do you mean few remaining days? Day before, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant, yeah. Not remaining days.
So yeah, so are you aware? So it's So I've actually used this company, this website, to look up companies for job interviews.
Right.
It's a website
Yeah.
called Glassdoor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and so CD Projekt Red basically was getting loads of negative employee reviews on Glassdoor saying things like, just retire or focus on family. Please leave making games to people who actually play them, make them, and
Wow.
love them. Yeah, like there's just loads of negative reviews and stuff coming out of different parts of the internet about CD Projekt saying, yeah, it's really, really tough to work for them.
Man.
Yeah, apparently to use Glassdoor, you don't have to verify that you work for a company. And I've been seeing these comments on Reddit anyway about people saying that. So how legitimate are these? But CD Projekt actually released a full statement about the situation, didn't they?
Yes, I don't have it up in front of me. Do you remember what the salient points were?
Yeah, it's just basically saying, as a company, they are always going to push for the best that they can do. And apparently, I'm quoting here, it often requires a conscious effort to reinvent the wheel, even if you personally think it already works like a charm. So, they want to always be pushing, and apparently that involves not very nice situations at the end.
They make
What do you
a
reckon,
cracking DLC, though.
Yeah, they make an incredible DLC. What do you reckon the situation with Cyberpunk 2077
I
is
have
then?
no idea.
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
this was in the statement as well, because people are saying, when is it coming out? When are they actually ever going to show something tangible? And they say it's progressing as planned. They're taking their time.
At some point, what do you reckon, like 2020?
No, I think we'll get something next year.
Yeah, you reckon?
What do you mean by something? Like a trailer or?
Like
Or
a
not-
gameplay
or
trailer,
like a-
or maybe a demo. I don't know. Maybe a demo is far. but they don't really talk much.
Yeah.
They say, like, in this statement, and I quote again, silence is the cost of making a great game.
Because also they got nailed to the fucking wall by putting out so many trailers for The Witcher 3, and then the game came out and didn't look as good as the trailers,
Oh,
and
yeah.
everyone was like, "Yo, fuck you
That was
guys."
a huge controversy before the game came out, didn't it? It was like the downgrade argument, basically downgrading the game to look and play on consoles. Oh no, actually,
It's surprising that like it actually survived that, because that whole argument killed Watch Dogs 1.
Yeah, well, no. Watch Dogs 1 being kind of a boring game about an arsehole killed Watch Dogs 1.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think because you can get like there are mods on the PC that are called like the E3 mod.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the mod to make it look like how it looked at E3 2014.
Yeah.
This is the mod to make it look how it looked at the Video Game Awards in 2015 and all this other stuff. It's bizarre, like the kind of backlash it got for having to bring but because like it still looks incredible.
Yeah. I think that was the reason why it didn't, end up failing. It still looks amazing for an open world game at the time, and even now.
Does run like shit on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One
Does
though.
it?
Does it? Bollocks.
I think the average frames per second on the PlayStation 4 is like 25.
Oh. How about PS4
Yeah.
Pro?
20,
Who knows?
22.
I'd be that's actually worse.
Too many god rays.
4K has killed it. I'd be well surprised if CD Projekt had spent any time making a PlayStation 4 Pro patch for that game.
Isn't it coming? The PlayStation 4 Pro. Anyway. Like there's a patch for it or something I've read about recently.
Oh really? Are they actually? Oh cool. Maybe it will run better then if you have a PlayStation 4 Pro. You can actually play it on a console, not at 25 frames a second.
I may be thinking.
Hey, at least it runs better than Fallout 4.
Oh god. I actually haven't played it. There was a patch ages ago, but I just haven't played it since then because I really resent Fallout. Why couldn't Fallout be as good of an RPG as The Witcher?
Yeah, that's a good point.
What?
Why couldn't it have been as good an RPG as
Why
Witcher?
can't any RPGs be as good as The Witcher 3?
Yeah, it's just, I know I've said it already, but it's such an outstanding feat of
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
writing.
go ahead, mate. Yeah, go ahead.
Jack? I was just going to say, to have a game so full of content and side quests, and like literally hundreds of non-main story quests, and every single one of them is like interesting and has like a little bit of something to it. It's never just go and kill 5 things and come back to this person. They'll always have some sort of unique little bit of flair to it that keeps you engaged. It's not like, because Fallout 4 has procedurally generated quests, doesn't it? So like half of its side quests are literally just go to this place and kill these people or pick up this thing. And
Yeah,
come
well
back.
that was like the thing they introduced in Skyrim, wasn't it? They called it the Radiant Quest or something. And really,
that sounds familiar. Yeah.
really all it was like these miscellaneous little tasks. You can't even call them quests. It was just go clear out this dungeon. And like that was crap. And I haven't played enough of Fallout 4 because it runs so
I
poorly.
feel like
Or at least it used to run so poorly that. And then there was that whole Rooster Teeth thing that just made me hate the game
I feel like
even more.
touching on Mark's point as well. Not only is it the writing there on point and it's so good, but I feel like the voice acting that they've got, the way that they structure the lines and the way that the lines are spoken by the voice actors that they bring in really gets you like attached to some of the characters, even the characters that aren't really meant to be characters that you meant to get attached to. It's just.
Oh yeah, absolutely excellent performances all through.
And
that
I feel
game.
like nothing else has sort of stood up next to that any time in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Watching the No Clip documentaries, they were really, really passionate about the voice acting, and they actually did it for not every language, but most major languages. Like they had to hire voice actors, and for I think they did it for Arabic as well, and they actually had to change some of the dialogue in the game because it's just not appropriate for the Arabic world, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like they also had to adapt some of the myths and legends and monsters in the game because, like for let's say for example, Japanese culture would not have some of the monsters in the game at all, and they will have to just make up new things. And they had like a whole localization team dedicated to everything.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like, it's not a lot of companies would decide to do that. Not a lot of companies would be like, oh, so this is going to be really disrespectful to, I don't know, like this country's culture, but we're not going to bother to change it. A lot of companies just wouldn't do that, but they do.
It's a dedication to the quality of the story they want to tell that it comes across.
It was recently Wolfenstein had to do it, didn't they, to release it in Germany?
Yes, they did. They did a bunch of weird stuff to Wolfenstein 2, didn't they? So they could put it out in Germany.
Yeah.
Didn't they do the same in the first one as well? Well, let's say the first one, the one before this new one.
The New Order.
Yeah. Didn't they also change it for the German
Probably.
release? Yeah, I think.
I think a lot of games that feature Nazis have to be changed for German releases.
Yeah.
Such as Life, I suppose. I know the original Half-Life, when that came out in Germany, that was when Germany had really, really, really strict laws on video games.
Right.
And so they had to change it so that all of the enemies were robots. So like you can look up pictures of the Half-Life 1 enemy models that all look like robots, and like nobody bleeds, and you can't kill any of the scientists that are on your team, and a bunch of other weird stuff like that to try and make it fit in with their particular rule sets.
What their rule sets is you can't show people dying in the game.
It's been so long. I think at the time, I think obviously it's probably different now, but I think at the time in 1998, there was somewhat of. Hang on, let's see if I can look it up. German video. Yeah, I think you're completely right, Jack. Like the performances throughout Witcher 3 are just top notch. Like really, really excellent performances for basically every character. Like I think, they're all well acted. They bring that writing to life. They just add to the kind of the reality of that world that is. Yeah, it sells it, doesn't it? It sells that universe as something that you want to be involved in.
It's kind of like, was it in the 90s there was that Spider-Man animated TV show?
Yes.
And have you read like the hoops that they had to jump through to get it on air?
Oh, I think I've heard a bit of
like they weren't allowed to use the word kill or die or anything, which is why all the villains would say that they're going to destroy Spider-Man. Like you could have guns, but you couldn't have bullets, so they were all laser guns for some reason.
Right.
Nice.
You couldn't have anyone die from violence. It was all stuff. It was all weird stuff like that.
Is this the one?
Just like
where,
lasers are well scary.
Is it the one where memes?
Sorry,
come
sure.
from?
Yeah,
Yes,
probably.
all of those memes come from the Spider-Man TV show.
Like him sitting at the desk. And, yeah.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, too many memes. I can't be dealing with your memes. Yeah, I think because you mentioned it, Tom, and now it's stuck in my head. That fucking Rooster Teeth thing about Fallout 4 was just so distasteful.
What is it?
That's
I
like
don't know anything about it.
basically Fallout 4 came out, and someone it was Gertzman from Giant
Jeff
Bomb.
Gerstmann from Giant Bomb.
He gave it like an 8 out of 10. rather
it gave
than
it four stars on the PC, and then 3 stars on the Xbox One and PS4 because the performance issues were so terrible.
Yeah, and basically Rooster Teeth on like a vlog or a stream or video podcast or something slagged him off, saying that he's just doing it, he's just being contrarian to get attention, and they were all sat there
old and out of touch, and no one listens to him anyway, so he's just giving it a 3 out of 5.
And they were all sat there with their
reasons.
They were all sat there with their Pit Boys that they'd been given by Bethesda. You know, like the exclusive limited edition Pit Boy things and all this Fallout merch around them.
Yeah, like all sitting there with their copies of like Fallout 4, the collector's edition, on the table in front of them, and Fallout 4 posters behind them, wearing their fucking iPod Pit Boys.
Yeah, it was gross. And so every time I play that game, I think of that, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to play this anymore.
Yeah, and it's a shame because it's not even really Fallout 4's fault.
No,
it's just what a distasteful thing to do as people in. I guess also that's the actual trick of it is that Rooster Teeth are not and have never actually pretended to be any sort of legitimate video games journalistic outlet.
Yeah, but they have influence. And they should have acknowledged that.
Yeah, definitely. Or they should have at least have had the self-awareness to not throw their weight in on that conversation in such a way, because...
Yeah, that's what I mean. You know, they should have realised that what they say matters to people and reaches a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and like... for how they could have sat there surrounded by Fallout 4 merch, and because like even if they got it all themselves legitimately, and even if they had were providing actual well-reasoned, totally uninfluenced critique of anything, the format in which they did it just comes across as so fucking skeezy and dirty that like you just can't take it seriously. It just looks like it's been paid for.
Mm. Yeah, but that's the kind of thing. Like I was saying earlier, like CD Projekt Red seems to be such a nice company, although maybe not to their employees. And then it's that kind of thing that makes me sort of think that sort of the Witcher 3 was like this shining example. Like it stood out from a lot of things as being like, this is a really good way to do it for the consumer, for the player. You know, like quality DLC those, and, you know, like just a good game. And then the whole Fallout 4 thing just made me think, this is like this is the commercial way to do it, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Surprisingly, I
imagine Fallout 4 probably sold more, didn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And that makes me a little bit sad.
I mean, yeah, because I think because also you touched on something there that I completely forgot about. That is an example of CD Projekt Red being such a company that seems to at least stand as a bastion of like player rights. Is when Witcher 3 came out, they had that like every week. They'd put out a free patch that was like a bit of DLC. So it was okay, here's some new items, here's a new set of outfits for a bunch of characters you can turn on and off.
Yeah.
Here's a bunch of changes to the game. Like they completely changed. They added in a totally optional like movement scheme for Geralt, because people were like, I don't like the way like his walk accelerates into a run. So they were like, okay, if you want, we're going to add in this thing that means you can press a button and now he runs in a different way. And just like supported the shit out of that game for like a good couple of months afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, because actually now that I think about it, there are 2 like DLC expansions, aren't there? But if you go onto like the PlayStation Store or I suppose on the Xbox Store as well, like there's like a list of 20, 25, and I guess they are just like little patches, but they come in the form of little downloadable content, free downloadable content things. And that's awesome.
Yeah, like supported the hell out of it in a way that's really commendable.
I think it's just every company is going to have these crunch times and pushing its workers, isn't it? It's the same thing happening with companies like Tesla and SpaceX, where people are getting overworked quite a lot, and they choose to, do the work because it's important to them.
Yeah, like it would have to reach a certain level of unethical goings on that I'd actually be like, yeah, I'm not gonna support that developer anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like for it to be find out that they were doing something illegal, but just like reports of people saying they work us to the bone. Like, yeah, it's not great, but I'm not going to boycott the game over that.
Yeah, like crunch time is endemic
Yeah.
of the entire industry, isn't it? Like it is a blight amongst every game developer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like everywhere. Like you hear stories coming out of like there we go. Let's actually talk about Destiny for a second. Destiny 1 obviously was meant to come out in 2013, came out in 2014 because they almost finished it and someone said, no, I don't like the story on this. You've got to make it more straightforward. So they had to cut the entire game apart and stick it back together again and try and hack together an open world system and all this other stuff in a year. And so apparently, like, if you read the postmortems on the development of Destiny, from like September 2013 to when it released in September 2014, it was just a year of crunch.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I've actually heard quite a few stories of Bungie crunch time being pretty bad. Like I know Halo 1, it wasn't a very big team, so it probably wasn't the same like, employees under the heel of their bosses, but I know that like a week before Halo 1 launched, or at least when a week before they shipped Halo 1, multiplayer didn't work in any capacity.
Wow.
Fuck.
And there was like discussions like 6 days before release of should we just cut this? Like who's actually gonna lug 4 Xboxes together and connect it up for 16 player split screen? Is that going to be interesting to anyone?
Turns out, yes.
Yeah, turns out it'll define an entire generation. But
yeah.
And then Halo 2
it single-handedly launches online video gaming for consoles.
Yeah. And then Halo 2 had the cargo plane story, where they drew a cargo plane with the tail open and then crates falling out the back onto the runway. The idea was, the metaphor was that the cargo plane of Halo 2 was trying to get off the runway, and every crate that fell off the back was a feature they had to cut. And by the time they shipped the game, there was no room on the board for any more boxes, for any more crates. And I've heard I've heard that crunch time was like a legendary, like it was a dark point, but also then the launch of Halo 2 was even more massively successful than Halo 1, and so it sort of drew like a silver lining on it, but it was at one point regarded as like one of the worst crunches that anyone had seen at that studio. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Destiny 1 had that either, because it seems to just be typical of the way that they make their games, I guess.
For sure. I mean, then also, like, yeah, that's Bungie, that's an American studio, that's a big American studio with a lot of backing from, like, Microsoft and then Activision, and they, even then, with all that money and, like, support around it, had to do crunch time. So then you look at something like CD Projekt Red and you go, okay, well, you guys now have a shit ton of money because you've made GOG, and GOG is incredibly successful, but you are ostensibly an independent Polish studio.
Yeah.
So like those guys, I imagine those guys also crunch hard as fuck.
I'm now considering, like you brought up the difference between an American and a Polish studio. I wonder if like the labour laws between the US and the EU actually have an effect on development during crunch time, or like employees' perception of crunch time.
I wonder if, like, by the very nature of crunch, does it even follow labour laws?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Or what I was thinking was, if I feel like the EU probably has some. I worked in a software development at all, but I wonder if I assume the EU would have like good, labour laws to help employees cope in that. But I wonder if that would actually
protect
stop
workers'
crunch
rights.
from being crunch, or if crunch would stop workers' rights existing.
I think crunch is probably one of those things they go, no, this game needs to come out then.
Yeah.
And then, because also I think, I also don't think crunch is tough, but I don't think anyone's got a gun to their head. And I think it sucks, and I imagine it's really, really awful, but I don't think I've ever got the impression with people talking about crunch that it's like, I hated every minute of it. I get the impression of we are passionate professionals making something that we love, and we're working hard towards getting it done, and this is really, really, really difficult, and I'm going to go and take 3 months holiday when we've fucking shipped because I'm going to need to. And like I hear that from developers a lot.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of developer interviews where they say, yeah, we take like a month off after the game ships so that everyone can decompress because crunch fucks you up. But I don't think it's like, also it's one of those things where the employee's probably going, I need to get this fucking work done.
Yeah.
So I suppose, because then also, if you think about it that way, then does that make us, are we the problem as consumers? Are we the people going, well, I want it to come out then, and I'm not going to wait, and you've already delayed it 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think individually,
I think it's unacceptable for you to delay for another year.
I think individually, no. Like, if there's a game that any one of us was excited for, we'd be happy to take delays. But as a group, people, consumers, like, especially from a marketing standpoint, like, you release trailers for a game, you have like demos and press stuff and that, and then you delay for 3 months, and that sets your entire like media campaign off.
I wait.
At that point, it's like, okay, we have to refresh like people's minds. They've forgotten that trailer by now, especially when you're talking about delays of like a year or 18 months. And then I think there's games that are delayed for like more than 3 years that I don't even think, like, you can barely even call that a delay. It's it's almost a reboot at that point.
It's just shifting the release date, isn't it? I mean, I've waited through many months of Gran Turismo 5 delay. I think I can wait through for any game now. That game took a while to come out.
Man, Gran Turismo games have always taken a while, haven't they?
Which was the one that was meant to come out on the PlayStation 3 at like launch, and then instead they put out Prologue.
Gran Turismo 5?
Yeah.
That was 5, yeah.
Was that 5? Okay, yeah, right. Yeah, that was years, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was literal years it took them to make that one.
And then there's Forza Motorsport, and they launch games, and I don't even realise that they've launched like 4.
Yeah,
It's every year now.
I'm still working on Forza 3.
They've got their whole...
Like, they alternate between Forza and Horizon, don't they? So they literally make a Forza game every year.
Horizon.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I'm trying to think, what... Because, did Witcher 3 get delayed?
I don't think
I feel like it... Did it not? Because wasn't that also like a really weird release date as well? Wasn't that like March that came out in?
Yeah, it came out just before summers. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, so it was an early release. It was March or May or something like that. One of the ends.
Oh, okay, so it was delayed 3 months. So it came out in May 19th, I think. It was delayed 3 months prior to that.
So it was meant to be a February launch, was it?
I think so, yeah. February 24th.
See, I think the big thing with like
That's
delaying
sweet.
games and stuff is I think the consumer is happy as long as when the game gets released, it's everything that it lives up to. Whereas I feel like
Looking at you,
there's
No Man's Sky.
Again, like a brilliant example when it was. Did No Man's Sky get delayed? I'm not too sure if it did, but
Yeah, it got. That was the one where Hello Games were getting death threats and stuff because they was like, "Oh, we're going to delay it by a month again." And it had been delayed a few times before.
That's a prime example of a delayed game which hasn't lived up to people's expectations or the hype built around it. Whereas stuff like The Witcher.
And the backlash was furious.
The Witcher 3 got delayed by 3 months. That's not even that much of a big delay. But when they released the game, they nailed it. So
yeah. Like, there's this famous quote by Miyamoto saying, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad.
Yeah. And like a bad game is always bad, but a delayed game might be good.
Can you explain
That's why
Duke Nukem
Miyamoto made
Forever?
Super Mario.
You just put the same thing again, right, and release it again. For Super Mario.
Oh, mate, no, Odyssey's well good. You got a hat that you can use to, like, become shit. You could be a T-Rex. I was a T-Rex with a moustache and a Mario hat. It's great.
I'd actually really like to have a go on Odyssey.
It's well fun.
Oh, man.
Though there's a bullshit volleyball mini game in it that's really hard. And so that's probably going to be quite frustrating. There's also a skipping mini game in it where you have to skip 100 times and it gets faster and faster as you go.
Do you have to use the Joy-Cons for that?
No, thank fucking Christ you don't, no.
I've just got an image of you dancing around your lounge, like, twirling these Joy-Cons like you're fucking General Grievous or something.
Me actually skipping in my living room.
Yeah, but with
What
no
are the
rope,
Joy-Cons?
just with handles.
I'm not familiar with Nintendo.
They're the
Switch.
little...
The blue and red.
controllers that clip onto the side of the
Right.
Switch.
Yeah.
Do they have like motion
They're
sensors in them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've got, like, all sorts.
One of them's got an IR sensor in it, so you can do that with it, I guess. You can use it as like a wand.
Right.
They've got HD Rumble,
Alright.
HD
Hold on.
Rumble.
What's HD Rumble?
a gimmick.
HD Rumble is just, like, better vibration. The example they used was you can hold it and pretend it's a glass of ice, and it, like, one by one, it'll drop ice cubes into the thing, and you can feel how many ice cubes are in it just by sort of shaking the controller a little bit.
Yeah, like they've got a mini game where you hold the Joy-Con in your hand and on screen it shows a box, and as you move the Joy-Con the box moves, and you have to try and guess how many marbles are in the box, and it vibrates in like... So yeah, it's basically... instead of it being the standard vibration you have in controllers, which is 2 motors in the controller that spin at either low or high speeds to produce like a rumble, this one has like a far more nuanced range of vibration in it, so it can vibrate in like multiple different points.
Yeah, it's like surround sound.
Wish like that.
That sounds quite.
It's kinda like-
actually.
It's such a fucking gimmick.
Okay. I mean, it sounds.
That's why your
cool.
controllers
It's a
cost like
really
80
cool
quid.
idea.
So in games, it's not.
Yeah,
really
yeah,
used
for us-
that well, or like used to.
Well,
its
'cause-
full
but what
extent.
could it be? But what could it be used for, right? Like, it just means you end up having a bunch of games in which you have to guess how many marbles are in boxes.
You could make a mini game out of it.
They do. It's one of the games in 1-2 Switch. Their like mini game collection that came out with the Switch is the marble game. But like that's it. Like I think it's a really cool idea, but such a gimmick that I don't think they'll ever use for anything good. I don't know. What I am going to say is that we've gone far enough off topic. We've been going for about an hour. I think we've had lots of good Witcher discussion today.
Mhm.
This has been good fun,
We've
guys.
been talking around
Yeah.
it as well, which is
We got.
we've
Destiny
talked about
twice.
some. Oh man, yeah,
So let's
Mark.
play some Destiny.
Yeah, we should play some of that.
Yeah, Katie's gone back out of the house, which is good. So let's play some Destiny.
Oh man. Well, I don't think we can top that for an ending.
All right, this has been good.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah,
Thanks,
cheers,
Joel,
Joel.
for coming on.
That's all right.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Joel. Anybody got anything they want to plug?
No.
Shout out to logos I made for this show, which you'll probably see soon.
Yeah, shout out to the logo. I eat logos now.
Oh,
Jack,
I have a
what's
YouTube
your
channel
thing?
You guys can go and check out Crackerjack on YouTube. I upload videos of myself
Sweet.
failing at FIFA. So
Oh, mate, that sounds tip top. Right. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.